So finally, in section 8.3, we can do a binomial expansion the way that we will now be doing them. I would suggest that after you finish the exercise on 8.1 and you've got used to Pascal's triangle, we probably will stop using it. You might, if you are in an exam and you have to expand something to the, a binomial to the power of 3 or 4, you might just think, oh, I'll do Pascal's triangle, it'll be a little bit quicker. But Pascal's triangle will only work when the power on the bracket is small enough to make it worth bothering to write the triangle out. Probably we're going to be using our binomial, our n choose r notation. Okay, so this is how we will deal with these ones. I'll take the same example as the book, 3 minus 2x to the power of 5. Now this is one of the places where I hope a video will be helpful, because just seeing it all written down, you usually get the impression something's written. We naturally read it left to right, so you get the impression that we write all of this, then all of this, then all of this, and that's a bit of a fiddly way of thinking about it. What I would suggest is the following. I'm going to have a 3 to the power of 5 term here. Then I'm going to have a 3 to the power of 4, then a 3 to the power of 3. Make sure you leave plenty of space here. Then a 3 to the power of 2, then a 3 to the power of 1, and then a 3 to the power of 0 term. So I haven't left plenty of space. We're going to have to use another line here. Then we're going to have a minus 2x. So there's minus 2x to the power of 0, minus 2x to the power of 1, minus 2x to the power of 2, minus 2x to the power of 3. And just check here that the powers, this is a power of 4, this is a power of 1, so they add up to 5. Power of 3, power of 2, they add up to 5. So the powers in each place should add up to 5. Minus 2x to the power of 4, and then we're going to have a minus 2x to the power of 5 term at the end. And now I need to go through and put in the coefficients, which are just going to be 5 choose 0. Now, when you've done this for a little while, you can realise that 5 choose 0 is always going to be 1, right? If you've got 5 objects and you're choosing one of them, then there's only one way of doing that. 5 choose 1, which, again, when you've been doing this for a little while, you can put that straight down as a 5. If you've got 5 objects and you're choosing one of them, there are 5 choices. But after that, we're just going to write down our 5 choose 2, our 5 choose 3, 5 choose 4, and 5 choose 5. So each term has got 3 parts. We'll go through all the terms and write down the bit to do with the 3. Then we'll go through all the terms and write down the bit to do with the minus 2x. Then we'll go through all the terms and write down the coefficients, the binomial coefficients, the 5 choose numbers. Okay? And now we'll look at each term separately and work it out. Now, if you don't go through it that way and write down the terms with each of the 3 separate parts, one at a time, if you try and rush it and work out some of these in your head, you'll probably make a mistake. So now all I've got to do is deal with one term at once. So I know this is one lot of 3 to the power of 5. So I could use my calculator here, or just use a bit of brain power, but as it happens, I'm going to cheat and look in the blue box. But 3 to the power of 5 is going to be 243. Not going to be too difficult to work that out on its own. Now 5 choose 1 is going to be 5. 3 to the power of 4 I can work out as 81, and then I've got a minus 2. So I've got 5 times 81 times minus 2. Now again, in the exam you'll have a calculator. In this video I've got a blue box sitting next to me with the right answers in it. If you didn't have a calculator, if you had to work these out without, you might have to have an extra line of working where you just sort of write this down as 5 times 81 times minus 2, and then we work out the details later. But there we go. And so on, okay? So our final answer looks like this. Now, one thing I should perhaps just mention again, I think it's in the video that I referred to you to. If you looked at the last video in this playlist, I was explaining that the way to go was to go back into the statistics videos and look at how to calculate 5 choose 3. But just for example, if we needed to work out this 5 choose 3 and we didn't have a calculator with us, or it was more efficient to do it without, the way that we would do it is write down, okay, we'll start with a 5, and then keep going, 5 times 4 times 3, until I've got 3 things written in a row. And then I'm going to divide by 3 factorial, which is 3 times 2 times 1, okay? So that's the way we're going to calculate 5 choose 3. So if we needed to do this without a calculator, we could do. we don't have to just type 5 choose 3 in the calculator. Same for 5 choose 2. 5 choose 2 is going to be start with a 5, then write down the next number below 5, and keep going until you've got 2 things written in a row, oops, and then divide by 2 factorial. Okay, and 2 factorial, remember, is just 2 times 1, so 2 in this case. So 5 choose 2. Now the reason this is helpful is things like 5 choose 2. It's actually more effort to go to your calculator than it is to do 5 times 4 and divide by 2. Okay, so some of these choosing numbers you want to be able to do straight away. You can also remember that 5 choose 5, well, that's going to be the same as 5 choose 0, isn't it? If we're picking the 3 out of 5 of the brackets, we're picking the minus 2x out of none of the brackets. So 5 choose 5 is going to be just a 1 again, okay? And 5 choose 4, if we're picking the 3 out of, well, if we're picking the minus 2x out of 4 of the brackets, we're picking 3 out of 1 of the brackets. So 5 choose 4 is the same as 5 choose 1, which is 5. So actually, the only time here that we need to go to our calculator is perhaps 5 choose 3. And even then, if we think about it for a second, 5 times 4 times 3 over 3 times 2 times 1. Well, 3 and 3 cancel out, and 2 times 1 is the same as 2, so I've still got 5 times 4 divided by 2. So we can do it without a calculator. Now, a lot of people think, well, if I've got a calculator, why not use it? And the answer is because if you're relying on the calculator too much and you're not thinking about what you're putting in it, then if you make one slip, you will never notice. Whereas if you're thinking about what you're putting in the calculator, if you estimate what the answer should be, then if you do make one slip, you probably will notice because you'll have an idea of what the answer should have been. And if you make a slip with these numbers, if you type in 5 choose 3 instead of 5 choose 4, you do tend to get, often you get quite different numbers. Not always, of course, 5 choose 2 and 5 choose 3 are the same thing, but as a rule, it's a good idea to be estimating the output from a calculator before you turn the thing on. I think that's everything we need on section 8.3.